Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Let's Kids production of a Let's review of Turbo Kid. Yeah, this kid talking about Turbo Kid, and this is the spoiler section. So you might hear some music, you might see the production value come up a little bit, you might see some things being talked about. So this is the spoiler section of Turbo Kid, and today we're gonna be talking about the things I liked and disliked about this movie. A lot of more likes than dislikes. So I'll start with the dislikes. I really did not like a lot of things in the movie. I didn't like. I don't know, the gray overcast. That's it. There's not a lot of things I dislike about this movie, so I'm gonna talk about the things I do like. But I'm also gonna talk about a lot of spoilers in the movie. The one thing I did like about this movie, it didn't ruin how they told you how the world ended. Like, yes, it takes place in the post-apocalyptic future from 1997. So it takes place, the world ended in the 80s. Or the late 90s, who knows? Who knows, it could have been 7 years later, but the way it looks like it ended in 1986. So a lot of technology and progression didn't advance, so it's also like great homage to movies like Escape from New York, and I'm trying to think what else. A lot of movies that are predicted in 1997 being like shit, like Predator 2. I also did like the little Fallout reference it had there too, with the alternate universe where everything was very 80s. And it did remind me of Fallout. So, I love the fact that in the 80s we did progress with technology. So, it's kind of fucking cool. I will say this, though. Fucking phone. I hate that fucking thing. I will say this, though, about the movie. I did like the villain. Michael Ironside plays Zeus, who is a, spoiler alert, if you haven't noticed already from everything, he is a robot. He is a corporate model, actually. A corporate suit model. Basically, it's been revealed he killed his master, and basically, how the world ends is basically with robots. The robots just took over and destroyed mankind. And just destroyed the world in general. So, there's also that. Michael Ironside, is basically an evil robot who wants to control water and power. He basically is the perfect villain. He does all these fucked up things because he is a robot. He is a machine built for corporate design, and that leads to kind of like him being like a sadistic shithead. He's, torturing people, he's cutting them up, grinding them for water. He's just an evil fucking bastard. And yeah, that he is perfect in that. Michael Ironside plays that role perfectly. Excuse me. Alright, allergies, sorry. I'm playing some Fallout music in the background, so. I will say this, though, too, but I also like the fact that, another spoiler, Apple, the girl that Turbo Kid meets, is another robot, but she's a friendship companion. And you understand why she acts the way she does most of the time, because she is a robot and she does have this personality of happy-go-lucky. And I like that. I like the fact that they did that, and it also kind of gives that feel of what people are really fighting for. Yes, Apple's not a real person, but neither is Zeus in that movie. The thing I like about it is the ideology, the two ideologies that, yes, one's not real, but the other one's not real either. The evil guy's not real, but also Apple's not real. But Apple represents the idea of innocence, of good. What could be good of the universe? What could be possible? And there's a scene in the movie where Apple and Turbo Kid are looking at the stars, and they're talking about, the stars, basically. They're talking about, the stars, and Apple gives the, scientific reason. It's just a bunch of gases in the sky and all that. And, he's like, do you know how many, says something along the lines of, do you know why there's stars in the sky? Well, due to the fact that people have died and there's no more people left on the planet, and the fact there's no light pollution to, blind the stars. And he goes, no. My mother told me when I was a child that when the world ended, everybody's souls went up to the sky and lit up the sky, which I'll talk about later in a moment in the movie. But I love that. I love that in most apocalyptic movies where they bring that kind of like fantasy element into it. It's a little hard to describe, but like Fallout does it. Metroid 2033. If you've ever seen a post-apocalyptic movie that like you think, oh, it's grounded in reality, there's no magic in it, and then they have like that weird moment where like something extraordinary happens. I like that because it kind of brings like that. It kind of brings post-apocalyptic into the fantasy realm just a bit, and just to give people like, look, it's everybody wants the world. Not everybody wants the world to end, but it would be cool to live in a world where it's like, there's this prehistory and now everybody's living like savages. But anyhow, like, all right, towards the end of the movie, Turbo Kid defeats Zeus, and lo and behold, Apple dies. Like, Apple gets seriously injured and she dies. And that is one of the most tragic moments in that movie. Like, that is the most heartbreaking, but yet well shot, well developed. And yeah, they're covered in blood and it's raining blood, but you feel for Turbo Kid. You feel for this kid who just found this girl who's happy and joyful and doesn't care that the world is ending. And, now he's just alone. He lost the only thing that was, like, real to him. And she dies, and there's a beautiful scene where he buries her at the playground they met at. It's just so fucking beautiful and well shot. It's like one of the best post-apocalyptic movies I've ever seen in a while. Like, I know a lot of people are going to be saying, what about The Postman or I Am Legend? The problem with some of those is that they have good ideas and that somehow they get fucked over. Like, I Am Legend, great movie, but I feel like it didn't, execute its ending well. Same thing with The Postman, or, well, Waterworld is a different story. Waterworld is just Mad Max on the water, but not bad in movie idea, but just poorly executed. I do feel like this movie does do it a little bit better because it does play around with the fantasy element of post-apocalyptic. Like Fallout, you can see it a lot in Fallout, like the Fallout game franchise, because yeah, it does do that, but it also kind of reminds us that, reflects our own human nature. Like, yes, we will go to war, we will try to destroy ourselves. But it also has like those funny moments where like you have guys who are just like dressed up like Caesar's legions. You have guys who are dressed up like the Old West cowboys with laser weapons. You have, a lot of like things that were once harmless now becoming like harmful. Like you have in Fallout 4, you have a guy selling baseball bats and he doesn't know what baseball is, but he thinks it's a violent sport. But it's funny because it's like that prehistory kind of thing. Like we misconstrued history and we completely changed the facts around. Like we don't know what it is, but we interpret it in different ways. But on to Turbo Kid. Anyway, the ending of that movie, he buries Apple at the playground they met, and it kind of symbolizes the death of innocence, the death of joy and fun and innocence. But also, like, the show that Turbo Kid has now become a hero of the wasteland. That he's now become this, I don't want to say cowboy-esque. I don't want to say, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the hero of the West, like a legend of the wasteland kind of thing. Like his outfit is basically reminiscent of Mega Man in a sense too. And I will talk about his outfit too because there is a point in the movie I want to talk about. I did want to get the big spoiler out of the way because I felt like that was more important. I will talk about the grand battle too because there's a lot of fight scenes in this. But yeah, the movie ends and he says goodbye to the cowboy in the movie, who now is Hellboy. He has a mechanical arm. The movie ends and it pans up to the sky, goes up to the sky, and you see you go into above the clouds and you see space and you see the stars, and it's all these stars up in the sky, and all of a sudden one just shines bright, like comes out of nowhere and shines bright out, like, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the movie, like it kind of reminds me of Princess and the Frog, where like there's a star in the sky and all of a sudden like the star, like a cloud moves and there's another star. it's the same way, but like instead of like it just kind of just shines bright, and it kind of signifies that Apple's soul is met with the others and the thousands of the dead in the sky. Like, that is so beautiful, and it's like the same thing with Lion King. It's so fucking like well done. It's not done poorly. It's not done cheesily. It's done in a way that is very sad but very beautiful. You don't feel sad. It's not a downer movie. It's a very upbeat kind of movie because it does have upbeat, silly moments in it, but it also is a good story about a young hero learning to become a hero and learning what he must fight for. Yes, it's a girl, but she represents something that is, she's not real, but she represents something that is real. Joy, happiness, friendship, and all that. Kindness, good things, And then you got Zeus, who represents evil, darkness, the dark side of humanity. And he's not real. So it's like a battle between what is real and what, like, both sides are not real, but you want to fight for the one that is something good. So, yeah, I'm going off on a tangent here. But I will say this, though, about, what else can we talk about here? How everything works in this world. And, no, I'll talk about it in the end. I do want to talk about Turbo Kid and Turbo Kid, how he finds the outfit, because in the beginning of the movie, he's just a regular scavenger who likes to hide in his little hidey hole, drinks, finds water, finds all these miscellaneous things. And I want to talk about how Apple finds him, too, because Turbo Kid doesn't start out as the Turbo Kid. He starts out as the kid. He was reading the comic of Turbo Man, who is the great superhero and all this, and it's kind of like the legendary lore kind of thing. Like, if someone were to find our comic books, if the world ended, and someone were to find our comic books and read it and be like, they had heroes back in the day, how come they never stopped anything? Like that. And that's where Apple meets her, and that's where they have that relationship at the playground. Thus it comes full circle at the end, the whole burying her at the playground. Because Apple's this joyful creature who just doesn't care that the world's ended and it's depressing. She's just wants to have fun. And she basically slaps a tracker on his wrist, and you think, oh god, she's gonna kill him. But there's a scene in the movie, like, with the cowboy. There's a cowboy who's trying to fight Zeus. He's trying to go against him. And I forget the cowboy's name, but, like, there's a funny scene with Turbo Kid and him, and he's like, keep your arms length apart. Like, you're in my personal space. It's kind of funny, because he's just kind of like, he doesn't want people in his space, but, like, people are getting in his space. So there's a scene where, like, there's two guys, like, him and another guy are pissing, and he's telling the other guy to move over, but then he just puts his shoulder, hands up, and pushes him. That dude's a fucking badass, like, extraordinaire. And he gets his arm sliced off by Zeus's right-hand man, who has basically a power fist with a saw on it. It's that power saw fist that, you see in Fallout New Vegas, I think it was, but that's badass. What else? There's also there's a lot of bike use in this, because there's no cars in the movie. There's a lot of bikes, and I think that's reasonable in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, because once there's no vehicles you can use to drive around, or you don't really have mechanics, driving around on bikes seem reasonable. Like, it's Kinect. Everything is Kinectly operated. Like, there's a scene in the movie where there's a bar where you, which I'll talk about the certain scene with the cowboy. There's a certain scene where in a bar where a guy, the whole place is run by a man cycling on a bicycle, and it's kind of funny to see that. And it's like, alright, if the world ended, like, when you see apocalyptic movies, you want to see things work and how they work and interact. I want to also talk about the plot of this movie. Like, the main plot of this movie is basically Zeus is trying to find water, and you find out in the beginning of it, throughout the movie, that Zeus killed Turbo Kid's parents, and he chased off Turbo Kid, and his mother was the only one to shoot him in the eye. Also, the fact of the matter is they're trying to find the water source, because the Turbo Kid's parents found the water source and all that, and he's trying to find it. So yeah, it's basically like Fallout, where he's trying to look. It's about water. Another thing I love about this movie too, and I will say this, spoil it a little bit more too. What else? Oh, there was a scene in the movie where like they're having an arm wrestling competition, and on both sides there's like a branding thing, and the dude is just like the cowboy's such a fucking badass that he just kind of like doesn't lose, and he doesn't have a burn mark on his hand, so he burns a lot of people. So like he basically burns. He doesn't lose. What else? Yeah, the violence in the movie is just fucking outrageous. It's on the same line as Fallout, as again, mentioning Fallout, because this movie does take a lot of inspirations from that particular source material. It does remind me of it, because you have, you know, alternate history, you have weapons that are homages to that game, you have, but I also want to talk about Turbo Kid's origins, but I will talk about, you know, the references to Fallout. Excuse me, I'm kind of jumping around. The big, okay, that's from, okay, I gotta know how to put the light in a different spot. Looks like someone's pointing a gun. Turbo Kid's really great. No, Turbo Kid is really great, and I think it's one of the best movies. For a movie that is low budget, and this is something I will say this too about the movie. For a movie that's low budget, it's really fucking good. Like, it's really fucking like impressively done. Like, this is the thing. Like, this is a movie I want to make. I want to make something that is fun, low budget, but yet fun. And I'm tired of fucking like hipster fucking kids making these kind of movies without showing any respect to the source material. Like Kung Tai, what is it? Ted Fury, I think it is. Kung Fury. It just seemed like a parody of like what you could do with something like that. Like an homaging to the cheesiness of the 80s, and was just like, oh, so over the top, not even funny. Like, Turbo Kid was over the top, but at least, like, when, like, something got chopped the fuck up, you understood why. Or the humor in it, like, when there's a scene with the final battle, where Turbo Kid basically, well, hold on, before I even go into the final battle, I gotta talk about where Turbo Kid gets his shit. Basically, he's being chased by a cyborg, I think a cyborg, or basically a robot, a cybernetic robot, which you find out later in the movie that robots are fucking deadly creatures. And I want to talk about another thing with Apple, but she, so basically he runs off, basically crash lands in a spaceship, which I thought was a pretty cool little hint to like Lord of the Rings and other fantasy movies like Zelda. A lot of good video game references in this, basically. So he finds the spaceship, rocket ship, I think, and he finds the remains of a pilot who dresses similar to Turbo Man, and he also finds a blaster, basically a Mega Man blaster, which is basically, in my mind, and my theory, is run by kinetic energy. So this whole movie is basically about kinetic energy. Or the theme is, excuse me. And he's using it to blast other dudes to bloody bits, and it's fucking impressive because he basically becomes, you know, I wouldn't say a King Arthur, but he becomes like the hero that he's descended. He's wearing the suit, and it reminds me, like, if the color scheme was different, it would remind me of more of Mega Man. Like, seriously, that's how close to the video game reference they had. The whole suit and his outfit, is a reminiscent of Mega Man, the whole blaster thing and all that. But what are the things? I got 19 minutes on the clock left, so I want to talk about real quickly about the ending fight scene. The violence in it, yeah, is kind of grotesque and over the top. There's a scene where Turbo Kid just blasts 3 guys, and the torsos land on one dude, and that torso lands on another dude with the head still intact. So it looks like this weird Three Stooges kind of thing. But yeah, the violence in it is like mixed between humorous, ridiculous, and corny, but well done. Real good practical effects in it. Minus a few CG scenes, and I mean few, like two. Like, I think when somebody, mostly the blaster shit, and mostly, Zeus's blaster, and mostly the water gushing out of the ground scene. Yeah, they find the water. Apple dies, you know that. But, the third thing is that Apple has this life bar on her arm. Like, she opens it up and it's a life bar, and it's hearts from Legend of Zelda. Again, another video game reference, and this is what makes this movie so fucking great, because it still homages, like, again, to video games. This is a movie that says to everybody, hey, look, just because you diss video games doesn't mean you should, because video games and movies are similar beasts. They're the two different sides to the same coin. You know, you have one that's interactive, and you have one that's linear and, you know, is more story-driven, but it's just the same thing, you know. It's paying homages to those things, and paying, you know, tribute to those of, like, nerdom and geekum, and the tribute to fucking, you know, today's geekum, the good geekum, not like, fuck, what's it I'm looking for? What is it that I'm looking for? Like, you know, with all these comic book movies, or like the Hollywood, every time Hollywood produces something, it kind of feels like it's just force-fed. You know what I mean? Especially in, like, other movies, like big-time movies, it feels force-fed. But I feel like with Turbo Kid, there was a heart there, and that's what I like about it. There was a heart, and I like the, goddamn, I'm a filmmaker, and I want to make this kind of movie. Not exactly this movie, maybe a post-apocalyptic movie, but do my own thing with it. So, my final verdict for Turbo Kid, I would give it a 10 out of 10. Like, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, 2 thumbs way up, 5 stars. Like, just give it the top rating, because it is a really good movie. I know there's people out there who are going to be like, well, there's problems with the movie. Well, there's a million problems with other fucking movies. I know you're going to be like, well, I don't get it, I don't like it. Well, you don't watch it then. If you don't like violence, I'm sorry. If you don't like something that has heart to it, I'm sorry. You know, this is a lot better than Laser Team, a lot better than Kung Fury, more respectful to the 80s and that genre movies, because it does pay homage to those movies, but it doesn't say, like, these movies are shit. Like, it doesn't, like, a lot of people, if you've ever seen, like, Red Letter Media, it kind of goes to say that this, you know, they love the source materials that they do. They love those cheesy fucking movies. They love the shittiness of them. But they also kind of have, like, a respect for them, too. So there's, like, a very... This is what this movie is. It's just a respect to the source material of the times. And respect the source material to everybody who enjoys these kind of things. But overall, yeah, it's a pretty good movie. So my final verdict is to go see it. Go see it and own it. You can get it on VHS. Yes, VHS. I said it. You can get it on VHS. I'm not showing my age. 27. Which would be soon 28. VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, cassette. Like, you can get this entire thing. And also the soundtrack is fucking amazing too. Goddamn, I love new retro wave. I'm gonna coin that. You should call this the new brand of music, new retro wave. You know, guys who do 80s synth, but do it in a very cool way. So this is the end of the video. So I will see you guys in the next video. Shiante will be coming out soon. I'm trying to get that fucking done. I'm just trying to find a job. I could ask you for money, guys. I could set up a little Patreon. I could set up a tip jar, but I feel like I haven't deserved it yet. So anyway, get this video out, share it with your friends, subscribe, get them to subscribe, like it, comment, tell me what you think of the movie, tell me if you think I'm wrong, tell me if you think I'm right, tell me if you've seen it and you like it, tell me what other things I should review. I know I need to see Superman, I know I need to see, what other movie did I see in the theaters? Oh, I saw Clover 10 Field Clover Lane, which I will talk about in another video. So, take care, love you, and bye-bye. This kid's production.